And Angel Reese, after injuring her wrist last season, getting surgery on her injured wrist, has now injured her wrist again and looked in severe pain in the Rose win in Unrivaled.
Angel Reese left the court in tears, clutching her wrist, and now there's serious doubt about whether she'll be ready for the start of next season. She's already undergone surgery on the same wrist and is now wearing a brace on her shooting hand. Last season, her month-long absence completely transformed the team's strategy and performance, with the Sky scheduled to face tough opponents like the Fever and Lynx in early games next season. Reese's potential absence could be devastating. Is the Unrivaled League facing a larger crisis with 40% of players already sidelined by injuries? And as you'll see, this injury situation runs much deeper than just one star player.
I just remember during the year when Angel Reese like landed on her wrist, and then you can see her like just kind of doing this, like trying to like get in and playing, and then it was like, oh, she faked a wrist injury, it wasn't real, and it's like you can literally see where it happened in the game.
Angel was dominating the court, pulling down rebounds and making plays like only she can, when suddenly that wrist, the same one that's already been through surgery, gave out again.
Now though Team Rose got the W, it's like at what cost, okay? Angel Reese was like, she was giving me flashbacks, okay? I kept getting nightmares from last year, 2024 WNBA season, towards the end of the regular season, when Angel Reese had that hairline injury, fracture injury, whatever, to her wrist, okay? And she actually had to go to surgery, and it prematurely ended her career that season.
What makes this so devastating is the severity of Angel's reaction. Her face was a canvas of raw pain, like a warrior betrayed by her own armor. At first, she tried to tough it out, staying on the court and attempting to play through the pain. We've seen this from her before. Angel's a fighter, always putting her team first.
And she kept on grabbing at her wrist, and you could tell that she was in pain. She was doing this in the first quarter of tonight's Unrivaled League game. She was still moving and grooving, trying to make them layups. Again, she was doing her layups, okay? She had energy like the Energizer Bunny. Again, it was very apparent that she was in pain due to her wrist.
But this time was different. You could see it building, the grimace with every movement, the way she kept favoring that wrist, until finally, she couldn't hide it anymore. The emotion erupted when she reached the bench. There she was, one of the toughest competitors in basketball, holding her wrist and fighting back tears. This wasn't about a missed shot or a bad call. This was about her career flashing before her eyes.
There literally was footage of her like on the bench holding her wrist in pain and like looking like almost angry. Look, like people thought from looking at it that she was crying, and it's like, oh no.
Some viewers immediately jumped online, claiming she was exaggerating, but medical experts watching that footage pointed out all the classic signs of a serious re-injury.
See her like in agony on the bench and claim it's a faked injury, and I don't know, some of the mad stuff.
The way she protectively cradled her wrist, her guarded body language, and that unmistakable look of recognition. The terrifying moment when an athlete realizes, I've done this before, and I know exactly how bad this could be.
It's a pity as well, because she's been killing it in Unrivaled.
The timing couldn't have been worse. Her team was in a close battle, the kind of game where Angel's rebounding makes all the difference. Yet she had to leave the court. Angel Reese doesn't exit games unless something is truly wrong. Fast forward to now, Angel walking around with a wrist brace consistently. That tear-streaked moment was more than personal agony. It foreshadowed the grim future facing her season and potentially altered the entire landscape of the league.
If it was just nothing really, it would be one thing. But we're looking at a situation where it's been surgically repaired, and you're now seeing Angel Reese just walking around precautionary in a wrist brace, which isn't ideal. Which is absolutely not ideal, because it kind of almost seems the same as the first time it happened.
While everyone's focused on the brace, they're missing the real story. This isn't Angel's first rodeo with wrist surgery. That brace she's been wearing for over a week signals something is seriously wrong. When doctors see a player still wearing protective gear that long after an injury, they're planning for a potentially lengthy recovery process.
Anytime you have a surgery somewhere and you get injured again early on, it's not ideal. Like, especially your wrist. One positive thing is that she's not somebody that relies too much on shooting the ball. Like, that is the main glaring weak point in her game, and she's still been a good player without that.
treatment. First, consider her previous recovery time frame. Did you get that? September injury, November return. That's 2 months of recovery for her first wrist surgery. Now consider the additional risks this time. Medical experts consistently warn that second injuries to the same area are more complicated than the first. The compromised tendons and weakened ligaments mean that this isn't just an injury, it's a ticking time bomb with reduced healing capacity and diminished structural integrity. What makes this particularly concerning is what Angel does on the court. She's a rebounding machine. Every time she grabs a board, she puts immense pressure on those wrists. Every box out, every fall, every battle in the paint creates stress on the exact spot that's already been surgically repaired. It's like asking someone with a recently healed broken leg to start jumping hurdles.
But like, not having a good shooting wrist is not ideal.
The recovery process for wrist surgery isn't just about waiting for pain to subside. It involves progressive rehabilitation, gradually rebuilding strength, and carefully monitoring how the wrist responds to increased activity. Rush this process, and you're looking at potential permanent damage that could affect her entire career.
If it ends up being another injury, maybe not one that requires surgery, but another serious wrist injury, you're looking now at, I don't know, going into, say, May, June, for her to come back. And sorry, that first game of the season becomes significantly less relevant if Angel Reese is not there. And it's a pity as well, because she's been killing it unrivaled.
Based on her previous recovery timeline, we could be looking at Angel missing significant time at the start of next season. If she follows the same pattern as her last wrist injury, we might not see her back on the court until she's had a couple of months to heal properly. That's potentially a quarter of the season or more.
We got a lot of things to do come May. We cannot afford to have Angel Reese sitting out in this upcoming season due to another injury.
What's particularly telling is the extended brace wear. When medical staff insist on continued bracing this long after the incident, they're seeing something in those evaluations that has them worried about long-term damage if she returns too quickly.
And the last thing you want is another wrist injury from one after getting surgery, because look, the season's 2 months away.
Medical staff's concerns about re-injury aren't just about Angel's personal health. They're about to send shockwaves through the entire WNBA schedule. The Chicago Sky are staring down a nightmare scenario where their opening games, the ones that had fans reaching for their credit cards faster than ever before, might happen without the rebounding machine who makes their entire system work.
Guy, I wonder what's going to happen for the Chicago Sky, like if she's not available to start the season. Imagine being one of the people that spent, like, I know it's not in Chicago, imagine being one of the people that spent all those money on tickets for Caitlin Clark and Reese and did not see the game.
Have you seen the Sky's opening schedule? It's brutal. The team is walking a tightrope without a safety net. Game 1 against the Indiana Fever featuring Caitlin Clark, the matchup everyone has been dying to see. Game 2 against the Minnesota Lynx, one of the league's powerhouse teams. This scheduling couldn't possibly come at a worse time for Chicago, with Angel potentially sidelined.
The Wings, is that at home? That's at home, so if you're the Sky, you're gonna want to be playing that game. You're really going to want her playing that game or the first home game. And it could be a struggle because, again, I don't know how much of preseason she's going to be able to do.